everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm your host Sharon Philip, and this is Honest Conversations with Sharon. The goal of our podcast series is to bring back honest conversations. In an age where fake news, media biases, and political agendas are more active than ever, such conversations bring back relevance to several issues of our society. Joining me in these podcasts are common people like you and me. So, welcome to a new episode of Honest Conversations with Sharon, and I'm thrilled you joined us. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today on this Saturday afternoon on Honest Conversations with Sharon. And today I have a wonderful guest, Darsha, who is actually my high school friend, who I knew from high school. We used to go for tuitions together. And today we are discussing an interesting topic that I'm really looking forward to discussing with her. And before that, hi Darsha, thank you for joining us today.
Hi Sharon, I'm so glad that you have chosen me for this.
I'm so excited to have you on board. Let me tell you something about her. She was the one who kept checking on me, asking, when is your podcast coming out? And I'll be like, oh, I've not even started on it. So thank you for that. I mean, a part of the credit goes to you as well if this is actually happening in real time. But Darsa and I knew each other from high school, as mentioned before. We used to go for tuitions and we lost touch after that. But she's someone who is really interesting. Her discussions are really amazing. She has an Instagram page where she talks a lot about mental health and topics related to that. And really, as a young graduate, she's really doing a great job and she's putting her efforts in this conversation. Really means a lot. And Sasha is also a psychology graduate. And but before that, before we get to our topic, anything that we're discussing here today isn't medical advice, but this is really like we talking about a topic. If you feel like you need medical advice on this, we would highly suggest you getting in touch with a professional. But Darsha, so today we're talking about creating boundaries. And honestly, I feel like sometimes it's really a joking topic because it is something we have gone through a lot of times, and something I feel personally with creating boundaries, there's a lot of negative emotions than the positive emotions, but we look at the negative aspects. So I'm really excited to talking to you about this. So tell me, what is creating boundaries? What is it all about?
So, okay, to say from my own personal experience, from the culture that we are being brought up with and from the environment that we grow up in, boundaries, especially in an Asian culture, does not, get explicitly, what do I say? It does not get the importance that it should be. Yeah. So the moment I learned about boundaries was probably in college or after I've chosen psychology in my life. So boundary setting is a huge step, especially when it's not a normal. When people around you don't do it, and when you get judgments or when you get a negative comment for the boundaries that you choose for yourself, it's going to be very common. So for me, a boundary, when I hear the word boundary, it's very funny. I find myself like in a house and then, I have fences all over it. So it's like that position where I keep myself in the middle and there's a setting around me where I limit myself or, where I let others to not cross it. Yeah.
I think that's such an easy way to put it. And it's actually very interesting that you pointed out about our culture. And we both come from a very collectivistic environment and we have a lot of, the word, you basically live together. And I think that is and I think when you hear about boundaries and how you described it like a fence around, it's kind of like you're pushing out of that culture. I sometimes feel that is what, and that's why I started off by saying that this is something we young adults deal with on a day-to-day basis. I'm really being honest here because it's all about honest conversation. When you start creating boundaries, people judge you by saying, oh yeah, you are a big bitch for doing it. You are leaving people. You don't care about people. You are selfish. Actually, I've heard so many people call me selfish for doing that.
Yeah, that's a very normal way because, like I said, it's not a normal for us to choose what we want in the setting that we are from. So when you take that big step of doing it, you're going to face the backlash of it.
Yes, exactly. And I wanted to ask you, like, when do we realize that these boundaries are necessary, or like, what is that realization point?
Okay, so I think we can't make a generalization of when that realization will come, because I think people who are in a different age points or at different stages of life get it differently. So I can't say, this is the point where you will get your realization, but I think certain experiences around you, what you go through and things you see, and when you realize that you are the priority, that's when this will hit you.
So it's kind of like about, like, we could generally say that it's all about self-awareness, and kind of like it's all about you in this, right? And just wanted to ask, like, from personal experiences as well, like, maybe just don't name it because obviously this is really public. I just wanted to know, like, have you ever experienced a particular point in your life that you had to get this limit, and what were the emotions, and what all went through you when you made that choice?
Okay, so I can remember a conversation which I recently had a few months ago. So it was with a dad's friend of mine. Okay, I mean it was with a dad's friend. Okay, so we were having, and I was saying out something, but he was not understanding where I was coming from. Okay, so, and then I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to keep explaining of what I want you to understand. You can understand whatever you want. Like, this is not what I meant. So, I know what has put myself, what I've been through, and to make such a statement. And it's not necessary for that, you should be understanding of it. So I realized that, people have different perceptions of certain things and how they want to perceive things and things like that. But it is the moment that you realize that you don't owe an explanation, or you don't owe, explanation, making them understand and accepting that, they should be understanding of you. So I was like, yeah, okay, let it be. And then we just cut off the conversation that way. So the emotions I faced was a lot of control that, okay, I have the power of what I want other people to know of me, to understand of me, and, to make that perception, and letting them be as them and myself being as myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is such a good way that you put it in. And sometimes I, like, for example, like, obviously this is all about conversations, so I can even tell from my experience. I feel that when I make like boundaries, it's where situations I'm really stressed, where situations where I would say, people kind of judge your decisions. Like, for example, if I didn't decide to jump off a cliff because I had priorities like my life and everything. And people say, oh, you're too scared of that. It's not that, I think it's also, I think people forget the personal choice. And I think in our culture as well, it is so dominant that personal choice never exists, which is sad. But I think that is something you can say about creating boundaries, that personal choice is avoided, yourself is avoided. And it's really hard, now when we're talking about it. And I can just imagine how many people who are listening to this might have gone through the same situations, and they're just like, if I take that step, that means I'm gonna be a person who doesn't have any love for anything. It's not that. That's a different. I think people forget terms.
Yeah.
They don't know which term to use at what point. And I think so. I just wanted to know, Darsa, from your experience, what is something that if somebody listening to today, how can that person not feel guilty? Because guilt is a major part of taking boundaries.
Yeah. So I think when, okay, so first of all, to make boundaries, I think the first step is you need to love yourself. You need to accept that only you stand before anything, everyone, and anywhere. Okay, when you hit that realization is where you will prioritize yourself, and that becomes an easy step to create your boundaries. So the moment you have love for yourself, the moment you prioritize yourself before anyone, anything, that moment, I think it becomes easier to make choices and create that boundary space. And that, I think, okay, initially it's going to be very hard. It's going to be very hard to make and be a firm about it and be assertive about it, tell people about it, vocalize your choices. All of this is going to be very hard at the first step, because every time, like a baby, when we have taken our first steps, we would have fallen down. So that is going to keep coming. But when you push yourself, I think it needs to come from the inside, that rather than people telling you, you should do this. So it's a lot of internal motivation, a lot of personal awareness, self as the priority, which makes it easier to take up this. And that will, of course, be the step that will make you less guilty. You are going to feel all those negative emotions, guilty, anger, and, a lot of self-doubt. Am I doing it right? Or, am I, should I be doing this? Am I worth of it? And all of these conversations with yourself is going to happen when you make choices and let people comment on it. But it's being assertive of what you want to be and where you see yourself to be in the future. Yeah.
I think that's so well said. And I think just to look at the red flags, and I think I just want to know, like how should a person realize that you need to create, I was thinking, there might be certain sort of discomfort with somebody that you have, and that might be the first cue to create your boundaries or something like that. Because I feel like right now, when we have a huge conversations about burning out and mental health and everything like that, I think a part of it, boundaries are also a major conversation in that, because nobody wants to have an unhealthy life. Unhealthy life means just not eating junk food every day, but also with your own, the other part of life that people forget. Healthy living is not about just eating healthy, but also living healthy. So I don't know, what do you think are some of the red flags that lead to such situations?
Okay, the red flag that I follow is my gut. Okay, so at the moment I see someone, the moment I hold a conversation with someone, or maybe a text or whatever it is, I get a vibe from them. Yeah. So that vibe is what I make conclusions of, and I maybe it might be wrong. I'm not saying that it's always right, but following your gut, I think, is the first thing, and the second thing is being honest. Like your podcast host, yeah, being honest with people around you. Say that be open of being honest. A lot of times we are honest, but we don't vocalize it. We don't say it out loud. So holding out conversations that are honest and, telling what you really feel rather than faking it. So that, I think, will help a little bit. And yeah.
I think, just with our topic, it's honest conversations. I mean, I've people ask me, why did I name it Honest Conversations? And I felt like the reason is because we lack honesty, and it doesn't matter even if it's politics or sports or whatever it's happening in our life. With ourselves, we don't be honest. And I think I remember where even I see a big change in me from the last time we ever spoke, and from this time we are talking. I feel like there's a huge change, because I think I've started to become a little more honest with myself and caring about me. Because what happens in our life is that we forget ourselves and we just work on people pleasing. Even now, I don't care about people pleasing. I'm just like, if you like it, you like it. I can't change myself. But honestly, I also feel there is a role of resentment as well in this whole creating boundary situation. So what do you have to say for that?
I think whatever you just said was right. Like you said, from people pleasing, from where we started, the culture, the collectivistic environment, the culture that we are from, we are taught from our childhood, from where we're being brought up, from everything, environment, family, and from the Indian perspective, or the Asian perspective, most of it is given that they don't give an importance of you. It's mostly about what others have to say, what others think of you. And like you said, honesty, I think even the filters and the edits we do on our pictures, literally is not honest with ourselves, with our physical experiences, physical appearances. And it's so hard for us to accept how we look without them, how we, just the raw self of who we are. So when we're not used to it, it is really very hard to, be in that position where you don't really care. It's very hard to make that distinction and lay out that boundary and that limit to, this is of me and that is of them. That distinction becomes so hard because of the normalization and the learnings we have been taught. So recently I was talking to a therapist. I mean, I'm taking personal therapy for myself. So my therapist said, your childhood is mostly about learning a lot of things, and your adulthood is about unlearning those things and making new formations of new things of whatever you've learned. So I think that makes a lot of sense, especially in this topic. Yeah, so it's going to be about a lot of negative backlashes, negative statements, negative frowns, and facial expressions. It's going to be all of that, but it's about where you want to be.
Yeah, I think that is so well put together. Recently, I saw this tweet. It's really funny, but it's about I think two of our second episode guests have they posted on their Instagram and everything. They said this, that sometimes when there's a conversation and you're trying to have a conversation and the person is just like, so he's also like not letting it go, and then you just say at the end, okay, fine, that's, and I've done that. Have you done that before? Done what? Like, for example, like we are in a conversation, for example, with somebody, and that person is just going on and on and on. And when you're trying to make him understand that this is not what it is, and then at the end, you're just like, I've given up.
Yeah, yeah, that's so relatable.
Yeah, and you just go with the word, okay, that's it. And I think that itself, it's a signal that you have put your foot down and said, like, dude, I don't think you're going to understand this. And yeah, and recently also, this happened in the month of August or something. I had a little fallout with one of my cousins, and I decided, like, she was not going to understand, neither I'm going to understand. So it's best that I put my foot down and do what, like, and I recently met her as well, and she was like, I don't want you to create this boundary with me. I'm like, I have to, for my own mental, because I remember I was fighting with her at 4:30 in the morning. Who has time with her? And then I was like, I have learned my lesson that you equally require that boundary, and I have kept that. I want to get close to you, but I know at the end I'm the one getting hurt continuously. And I remember when I was justifying this to my parents, my aunts and uncles, like why I did this, they were like, no, you should just mind your own business, or she's your cousin, you need to be with her, she doesn't know anything. But saying that, and I've been always a very giving person, that's I hate keeping everything to myself. Like even this own podcast, I don't intend to make money out of this. Literally, I don't care also if it is working or not working. I just want to give everybody who I know. And it's so hard to even say this is my podcast, because I feel every time now I'll be sending, your podcast will be ready by next week. I'm like, and I remember recently I said that, and the guy went like, that is your podcast, not mine. I'm just a guest on it. But somebody, like, I think people who are really giving in life, like for me, for example, what is an advice you would like to give to that person, like when it comes to creating boundaries and how to not feel guilty and prioritizing yourself again?
Okay, let's start off with the example that you said of getting hurt. So I'm sure all of us would have got hurt at some point in our lives, in some relationship, probably with your parents, probably with your friends, or anybody, maybe even a stranger, who knows. Yeah, so when you get hurt, you get to go through all of it alone, right? You get to go through the pain, maybe tears, maybe just emotions, maybe just feeling alone. And, there's so much of emotions that you go through alone. And I think even the positive aspects, we go through it alone when it comes to happiness. And sometimes you expect that, a little achievement of yours might be a huge thing for someone else. And it turns out that it might not be. So everything you probably will have to, at some day or the other, have to go through alone. I always think of it like this. When you go through your best and the worst alone, like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't share it out, and, you should obviously have relationships and all of that. But when I think I've written it somewhere, but I'm going to say it out loud, that when you go through from, like, walking and falling down in your childhood, and then going through all of the tantrums, and then the emotions and everything of growing up, being where you are, whatever years of age you are in that body, in that mind, in that soul. And there's a part of ourselves that nobody knows. Yeah. There's a self that we don't let out on an everyday basis. And that self is like the raw, true self of yours. So when you want that to be alive, when you want that to be there with you, I think only we have seen our shadows in the worst and the best. So when you know that only you're going to be there, no matter who is there with you, whoever in your life will stand by you, and all of that might be there, it's going to be you who's going to catch yourself at 3 a.m. when you're crying, or when you're laughing, or whatever it is. So even if people leave and people go out, or they choose not to be there in your life, it's going to be you who's going to be there through all of it. So when that you has to be there, there's going to be a lot of things that you have to do for yourself. To be that self, to be alive, and to keep your vibe, there's a lot of things that you will have to give up, maybe be assertive of, maybe face a lot of negative comments, judgments from other people, because they don't know that sense of yours. They don't know that self of yours. And that is okay from their part too, right? Like, let's just think, if we don't know the other person true enough, obviously we're going to make that statement or that comment. So I think it's fair on both sides to have it. It's just understanding of where you are from and where they are from, and that's just accepting that you can't accept people at all times. So it's not even like in relationships. I see in marriages this most often. So people, they might be living here together for so many years, but they might not know their true senses of self, and they're going to have disagreements, and that's going to be a part of the game. Yeah.
Honestly, I love so many things you just said right now. First thing, let me start off the true self, like you as such. And I always say this very often, like, you are the one, like, and I think something that my parents also taught me was that, and I think I'm glad they did, is that you're the only one who's going to fight your battles. There will be nobody coming to help you out. And you cannot expect anything. And I think in my last few years, I have realized I cannot keep expectations from people. I have to fight this battle by myself. And, recently I was talking to somebody, she was kind of like my mentor, and she said this thing, and it is a very harsh line, but also it's a very true statement that you're born alone and you die alone.
You're alone.
Yeah, so you're basically alone, and even even if you have, like, you're getting married and everything like that, again at the end of the day, it's you again. You are the one making the choice, and if you don't make that choice, and I feel like, really, for our listeners today, I really want to say, creating boundaries is not bad. It's about you. If you keep looking at it from the very negative sense, that is what we all do, we should, I think it's not about that. And I think I always say this, my third year of my university was one of my best years because of this reason. I created boundaries. I prioritized myself. I knew what was unhealthy for me. I'll tell you a very good example. So in second year, so there was this huge, because I studied advertising and PR, there was this huge, it was a big conference. It's kind of like the Golden Globes of advertising. Okay. So it was called Dubai Links. You might have heard it in university. And I took part in my second year. I went for it. I went for the competition. And the thing, what happened with me was that I went there and I saw people like, my own peers. And I remember I had a very good friend of mine who was with me. We both didn't get selected. So we both were together. We got like complimentary passes to go. And we both got so... I think we both understood this place is not for us. And I literally I remember even like recently also I had a chat with her. I'm just like, this was so not for us. Darshika is stuck. Can you hear me?
I think there's a Wi-Fi issue.
Yeah, okay, I'll just repeat what I just said, anyways.
No,
It's
your video stuck.
Oh, my video stuck. My audio is fine.
Yeah, now it's fine.
All right. So really, like, I remember we both told each other, like, dude, this is not for us. We cannot be here. And so in my third year, I decided not to go for that competition. And I remember so a few people in my class came to me and they were like, Sharon, you're not taking part this year. Are you okay? So I'm just like, it was such a big moment for them. Like, it was like breaking news that I was not taking part. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm not taking part. And they're like, no, you should, you should do at least a little bit or something. My own best guy friend came to me and he's like, dude, are you serious? You are not taking part. You just gave up. It's not about giving up. I think I, at that particular moment, knew this was unhealthy for me, man. Competition, like, I felt like at one point when in second year, I was in competition with myself, and just to take, and boundaries are part of every stage of your life, not just in university, not just at workplaces, they're in every moment of your life. And I really literally, guys, don't look it from the negative side, look it from the positive side, look at what is done to you. And I've seen a major impact in me, like it changed me completely after doing this stuff. So as final thoughts, Darsha, because now we have just 26 minutes left, just let me just give a final thought to anybody who's listening, if it's a student, if it's a work in your somebody looking for a job, or someone is hating his job or anything like that, just to that someone, what would be your final words about this topic?
Whatever you said is just beautiful. I'm so glad to see that, so many people who we don't see mental health conversations very often, right? So when such beautiful thoughts are being accepted from people who are not from the background, I find it very inspiring, and, I find it so beautiful. So congrats to you for making your boundaries perfect. I'm not going to say perfect, but I'm saying that
it's a work in progress, because I think your life is a work in progress.
Yeah, so keep doing more, keep making choices that suit you the best. So to others who are listening, who are a little frightened to take that step, or who are reluctant to make that choice because someone else will judge you, someone else will say something to you, someone else will look and be like, okay, she's not doing it the right way, or he's not doing it the right way, he's not being a man, or putting out stereotypes, putting out normal ways of living, and believing that that's how it should be, how the world should work. So if you come from such an environment, or if you put yourself and make yourself with these thoughts, all I have to say is, like it said previously, who do you think is going to save you when you fall down? Who do you think is going to be there with you at all times, irrespective of what is there, what is not there? Whether you are in the worst hair, or in the worst of, I don't know, anything, in whatever is the worst for you, whatever you are in, who is going to be there for you? It's going to be yourself. So will you want to be in that position of self where you can't even make choices for yourself? So the first step is to make yourself the priority, like what we have been discussing all over this conversation. Choosing everything what you want. Even it can be just like choosing not to study today because you want to do something else. Or choosing that me time, and that me and self-care and all of those self that you want yourself to be with. That be the person that you think you want to be with, and that I think will make you a lot of better with choices. And imagine if you were given the freedom to choose everything that you want, and that imagination make the reality, be that reality. And there's going to be people telling you this is not how it's supposed to be done. Be aware that that is going to be happening. That's inevitable. So people have to tell something or the other for anything, and that can be not in ways that we want it to be. So accepting that and then making that move will be more successful. And obviously, like Sharon just said, it's going to be work in progress. It's not going to be like, yeah, you make boundaries today and then it's set for life. It's going to be reframing it, rebuilding it, and sometimes some boundaries might not even be right. So it's about accepting that and then, changing it, being open to change.
Yeah, I think, that's such a good way. You actually gave some really good questions that we can ask to ourselves. And I think it's really important that we not question yourself, but really like put this statement in your head and just think about it. Not overthink, but just reflecting. I feel reflecting really works a lot. That's the right word to use. But it would really, really help. And I've seen it personally. Okay, so as I think it's a myth for a single child, like people who are only children, like only child, is that we kind of think a lot and we always like think in our head. We both are only child, so we know that like this is in our head. We might talk to ourselves sometimes, but there is yeah, it is a very common thing. So I think that question is the best. That question, when you start questioning that, trying to find answers for that question in your head, you finally realize what's going on. And as a giving person as well, like someone who is always openly welcoming people in our arms, from my own experiences, I've realized so that I had to set so many boundaries. It's because of the self thing, because if it's you at the end of the day, you are the only one there. You know what I mean? So I'm so glad you came on to Honest Conversations today. Really, it is so good. I love our topic that we discussed. It is something we all actively need to discuss even more. So thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoyed being part of this.
Thank you, Sharon, for inviting. I'm so glad, I got to an opportunity to talk about self and boundaries, and it's a very enlightening conversation. I hope the listeners feel the same.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get you back for another episode or something, but really it means so much. And thank you for everyone listening today to Honest Conversation. I hope you guys enjoy it. And if you ever want to get in touch with Darsha has a YouTube page as well where she vlogs, and I do get some time. Whenever I get time, I'd go and listen to it. But it's a very nice page, very calming for every Keralite who loves to watch things like this. You will enjoy it because it's mostly in Malayalam, right?
Yes.
Yes, so you can definitely go and check that out. But Darsha, thank you again. I hope you enjoyed being here, and I hope you all have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Sharon. All the very best for this.
Hey there. Thank you so much for joining us today. I highly appreciate your time and consideration. If you want to join this conversation, please do find the details in the bio. Until next time, just be honest and have a great week. Thank you and goodbye.